The dust of Lagos never truly leaves your skin. It clings to you like a memory you're trying to forget. As I stood in front of the rusted iron gates of my family home in Ikeja, the humid air felt heavy, like a physical weight pressing against my chest. I had spent 8 years in London, 8 years of double shifts, freezing winters, and eating nothing but instant noodles, so I could send every spare pound back here. I was the golden daughter, the one who sacrificed her youth to rebuild a crumbling dynasty. But as I pushed the gate open, the screech of metal against stone sounded like a warning. The house didn't look like the sanctuary I had been paying to renovate. The garden was overgrown with weeds that looked like strangling fingers, and the paint I had sent millions of naira for was peeling like sunburnt skin. Through the window, I saw a flicker of movement, a shadow that didn't belong. My heart hammered a frantic rhythm against my ribs. I had called from the airport, but no one picked up. I wanted to surprise them, but as I stepped onto the porch and smelled a perfume that wasn't my mother's, a cold shiver washed over me. Something was fundamentally broken here, and it wasn't just the plumbing I'd supposedly fixed 3 months ago. If you returned home, after years of sacrificing everything for your family, only to find the front door locked and a stranger's voice inside, would you walk away or demand the truth? Tell me in the comments how you'd react and stick around, because what I found behind that door changed my life forever. To understand why my blood turned to ice that afternoon, you have to understand the girl I was when I left. My name is Evelyn, and 8 years ago, I left Nigeria with a suitcase full of dreams and a heart full of guilt. My father had passed away suddenly, leaving behind a mountain of debt and a family that didn't know how to survive without him. My mother, Beatrice, was a woman of fragile nerves and expensive tastes, and my younger brother, Oliver, was a brilliant boy whose university dreams were about to be extinguished by our empty bank account. I remember the night I told them I was leaving. We were sitting in the dark because the electricity had been cut again. "I'll fix this," I promised, clutching my mother's hands. "I'll work. I'll send money. I'll make sure Oliver graduates and this house becomes a palace again." And I worked. Oh, how I worked. In London, I was a ghost. I lived in a cramped room in Peckham with 4 other migrants. I worked as a nursing assistant by day and cleaned office buildings by night. My hands were permanently raw from bleach and cold water. Every month, like clockwork, I headed to the Western Union office. Year 1, I sent money for my father's outstanding medical bills that my mother said were still surfacing. Year 3, I sent $15,000 for the great roof leak and the complete rewiring of the house. Year 5, I paid for Oliver's international business degree at a private university in Cotonou, plus his car, his rent, and his lifestyle. Year 7, I sent the final lump sum for the family investment fund, a business my mother claimed would finally make us self-sufficient so I could come home and rest. Every phone call was a litany of struggle. My mother would cough into the receiver, her voice thin and weary. "Evelyn, my daughter, the economy is so hard. Oliver is studying so late his eyes are red. We are eating only once a day so we can save the money you send for the renovations." I felt like a monster whenever I bought a coffee for myself. I wore the same coat for 4 winters. I missed weddings, funerals, and my own youth, fueled by the mental image of my family finally living in comfort, waiting for my return with open arms. I pictured the new marble floors I'd paid for, the lush garden, and Oliver's graduation gown. I was the engine of their survival, the unseen pillar holding up the sky. But as I stood on that porch, looking at the same rotting wood I'd been told was replaced 2 years ago, the pillar began to crack. The silence of the neighborhood was deafening, broken only by the distant sound of a generator, a high-end, silent model that definitely didn't belong to our struggling household. I reached for the spare key under the ceramic pot. It wasn't there. Instead, the door swung open, and I was met with the smell of expensive lilies and high-end cognac. For a split second, I forced my brain to find an excuse. Maybe the renovations were internal. Maybe they had decided to keep the exterior humble to avoid drawing the attention of thieves. I took a deep breath, smoothing down my travel-worn clothes. I wanted to look like the success story they expected. I imagined my mother's scream of joy, the way Oliver would lift me off my feet, and the long dinner we would have where I would finally be told, "Thank you, Evelyn. You saved us." I stepped into the foyer, my heart leaping. I expected to see the dusty, familiar hallway of my childhood, perhaps upgraded with the modest furniture I'd authorized. I pictured the old family portrait, the one where we all looked so lean and hungry, replaced by something vibrant. I had this beautiful, cinematic vision of walking into the kitchen and finding my mother humming a hymn while she cooked my favorite jollof rice, the steam rising like a warm hug. I was ready to cry, ready to forgive the years of loneliness, and ready to finally sink into the softness of a home I had bought with my own blood and sweat. But the house didn't smell like jollof rice. It smelled like Italian leather and imported oud. As I walked deeper into the living room, my sneakers felt loud on the floor. It wasn't the marble I had paid for. It was something much more expensive, polished obsidian that reflected my confused face like a dark mirror. The walls weren't the warm cream I had discussed with my mother over a crackling WhatsApp call. They were adorned with gold leaf molding and contemporary African art pieces that I knew, from my time working near galleries in London, cost thousands of dollars each. "Who is there?" A voice sharp as a razor blade cut through the air. It wasn't my mother's frail, hungry voice. It was deep, confident, and dripping with authority. A woman stepped out from the dining area. She looked about my age, dressed in a silk lounge set that cost more than my monthly rent in Peckham. Her hair was perfectly laid, her skin glowing with the kind of radiance only expensive treatments can buy. "Who are you?" she repeated, eyeing my worn-out backpack and tired face with visible disgust. "How did you get in here? The cleaners usually come through the back." I'm Evelyn," I stammered, my tongue feeling like lead. "This is my mother's house, Beatrice's house." The woman laughed, a cold, melodic sound that chilled me to the bone. "Beatrice, you mean the matriarch. And who are you to her?" One of the distant cousins from the village looking for a handout. Behind her, I heard footsteps, heavy, confident footsteps. A man walked in, checking a gold Rolex on his wrist. It was Oliver, but it wasn't the scrawny, studious brother I had sent money to. He was broad-shouldered, wearing a designer shirt, his face filled with the arrogance of a man who had never known a day of labor in his life. "Babe, who is this?" Oliver asked, not even looking at me at first. "She says she's Evelyn," the woman sneered. Oliver froze. The color didn't drain from his face. Instead, a mask of annoyance settled over his features. He didn't rush to hug me. He didn't cry. He looked at me like I was a debt collector who had shown up at the wrong party. "Evelyn," he whispered, his eyes darting to the door as if hoping I'd disappear. "What are you doing here? You said you weren't coming until December." The silence that followed Oliver's question was thick enough to choke on. I stood there, my suitcase leaking a bit of London rain onto their obsidian floor, feeling like an intruder in my own sacrifice. "What am I doing here?" I repeated, my voice cracking. "Oliver, I've been gone for 8 years. I came home to see my family. I came home to the house I've been paying for." Oliver didn't move. He didn't offer to take my bag. Instead, he stepped closer, his shadow looming over me. "You should have called, Evelyn. The network has been bad, yes, but a surprise visit? It's not convenient." "Not convenient?" I whispered. Before he could answer, a door upstairs opened. My mother, Beatrice, walked onto the landing. She wasn't wearing the threadbare wrappers she described in our videos. She was draped in a rich, navy blue lace buba, her neck adorned with layers of heavy coral beads. She looked healthy. She looked radiant. She looked like a woman who hadn't missed a meal in a decade. She looked down at me, and for a second, I saw a flash of pure, unadulterated terror in her eyes. It wasn't the terror of a mother seeing a long-lost child. It was the terror of a thief caught with their hand in the vault. "Evelyn?" she gasped, clutching the railing. She quickly adjusted her expression to one of forced grief. "Oh, my daughter, you're back. Why didn't you tell us?" "The house is a mess. We are in the middle of repairs." "Repairs?" I looked around at the luxury. "Mom, you told me you were sick. You told me the roof was falling in. You told me Oliver was struggling in school. But this looks like a palace. And who is this woman calling you the matriarch? The woman in the silk set smirked, crossing her arms. I'm Cynthia, Oliver's fiancée. And this palace is the headquarters of our family's real estate firm. Which, by the way, you're currently trespassing in. Fiancé? I looked at Oliver. You told me you were single and focused on your studies. I sent you £5,000 last month for your final project. Oliver cleared his throat, looking at the ceiling. That was for the wedding fund, Evelyn. You wouldn't have understood. You're always so focused on the struggle. We had to build a brand. We had to look the part to get the big contracts. The betrayal didn't hit me all at once. It came in waves, like a rising tide of acid. I walked past them into the dining room, ignoring their protests. On the sideboard sat a digital photo frame. It cycled through images I had never seen. There was my mother at a resort in Dubai. The same week, she told me she was hospitalized for malaria. There was Oliver standing in front of a Mercedes G-Wagon the same month I sold my laptop in London to pay for his textbooks. You lied, I said, my voice rising. Every single word for 8 years was a lie. I walked to the kitchen. The old leaky fridge was gone. In its place stood a Sub-Zero, double-door professional unit. I opened it. It was stocked with imported cheeses, fine wines, and delicacies I couldn't even afford for myself in the UK. Evelyn, stop this drama, my mother shouted, descending the stairs with a grace that betrayed her supposed leg pains. We did it for the family. If we told you we were doing well, you would have stopped sending money. You would have gotten comfortable and stayed in London forever. We were thinking of our collective future. Your collective future? I screamed, spinning around. I held up my hands red, calloused, and trembling. I worked 16 hours a day. I lived with rats. I didn't go to the doctor when I had a chest infection because I didn't want to spend the money that was meant for your surgery. We used that money to seed the business, Oliver said, his voice now cold and defensive. And it worked. We own 3 properties in Lekki now. We are a different class of people, Evelyn. You should be proud. Your sacrifice provided the capital for a dynasty. Where is my room? I asked suddenly. The house had 4 bedrooms. Cynthia, the fiancée, let out a dry laugh. Your room? Oh, you mean the guest suite? We turned that into a walk-in closet for the wedding wardrobe last month. There's a maid's quarters behind the kitchen if you need a bed for the night. But honestly, with that attitude, a hotel might be better. I looked at my mother, waiting for her to slap the girl, waiting for her to defend me. Instead, she looked away, smoothing her lace. She's right, Evelyn. You're being very emotional. We'll talk about this tomorrow when you've had a bath. You smell like the airport. The realization hit me. I wasn't their daughter or their sister. I was their silent partner, their invisible investor. And now that the business was thriving, the investor was no longer needed. I was a reminder of a poverty they wanted to forget. A maid's quarters. I repeated the words slowly, the absurdity of it tasting like ash in my mouth. I looked at Oliver, who was busy scrolling through his phone, as if my presence were a minor technical glitch in his day. Oliver, I paid for your car. I paid for your degree. I paid for the very shirt you're wearing. Oliver finally looked up, his eyes hard. And we are grateful, Evelyn, truly. But let's be realistic. You chose to go to London. You chose to work those jobs. Nobody forced you to stay there for 8 years. You wanted to be the hero, the savior of the family. We just let you play the role. You let me play the role? My voice was a low tremble now, vibrating with a decade of suppressed exhaustion. I sent you money for Dad's headstone, Oliver. You sent me a photo of a marble monument. I cried for 3 days looking at that photo. It was a stock photo from Google. Cynthia chimed in, checking her manicured nails. The old man is buried in the village cemetery. It's much more rustic. Spending millions on a grave is bad for cash flow. I turned to my mother. She was the one who had written the letters about her failing heart. She was the one who sent me voice notes of her coughing while I was on my lunch break in a cold hospital basement. Mom, you told me you were dying. You said the doctors needed 2 million naira for a pacemaker. Beatrice had the audacity to sigh. a long, theatrical sound of exasperation. "Evelyn, you don't understand the pressure of maintaining a reputation in this city. When your father died, people expected us to fail. I had to ensure Oliver had the right connections. That pacemaker money bought us a table at the governor's gala. That's where we met Cynthia's father. That's how the real estate business started. It was an investment in our bloodline." "I am your bloodline," I screamed, the sound tearing through the pristine, expensive silence of the house. "I am the one who bled. You used my life as capital." "Keep your voice down," Oliver snapped, stepping into my personal space. "The neighbors are people of substance. We don't do shouting here. If you're going to stay the night, stay in the back. If not, I can call an Uber to take you to a guest house in Yaba. It's more your pace." The silence that followed was a weapon. They stood together, a united front of silk, lace, and arrogance, looking at me like I was a beggar who had wandered into a private club. They didn't see a sister. They didn't see a daughter. They saw a ghost of a past they had outgrown. I didn't go to the maid's quarters. I sat on my suitcase in the middle of the obsidian floor, and for the next 3 hours, I forced them to talk. I didn't cry. The tears had dried up somewhere around the 5-year mark in London. I wanted the facts. "How long?" I asked. "Since the 2nd year," my mother admitted, sipping a glass of wine Oliver had poured for her. "The debts were cleared much faster than we told you. But then we realized, if we told you the truth, you'd come back. And what would you do here? You'd be another mouth to feed, another person struggling in the Lagos heat. By staying there and sending pounds, you were more valuable to us." "So, the roof leaks?" "New office space," Oliver said, almost proud of himself now. "The surgery? Down payment on the Lexus. And the investment fund. I sent £50,000 for last year, my entire life savings." Oliver and Cynthia exchanged a look. Cynthia leaned forward, a cruel smile playing on her lips. "That money didn't go into a fund, Evelyn. That money bought the land for the Evelyn Heights luxury apartments we're building in Lekki. We named it after you as a tribute. But legally, the company is registered in my name and Oliver's. You aren't even on the paperwork." My heart didn't just break. It shattered into a million jagged pieces. They hadn't just spent my money. They had systematically used my labor to build a world that legally excluded me. They had used my name as a sentimental mask for a corporate entity that I had no part in. "You use my name to build apartments I can't even enter," I whispered. "It's a brand, Evelyn," Oliver said dismissively. "The daughter's sacrifice story sells well to investors. It gives the company soul. But business is business. You don't have the education or the polish to run a firm like this. You're a nursing assistant. Stay in your lane." He walked over to a safe behind a painting I had paid for, and pulled out a stack of Naira notes. He tossed them toward me. It was maybe 50,000 Naira, not even $60. "Take this for your transport and food for the week. We're busy tomorrow with the groundbreaking ceremony. We'll talk about a monthly allowance later, once you've settled down." I looked at the money on the floor. Then I looked at the Evelyn who had been working in London, the girl who thought she was a hero. She was dead. And in her place, someone much colder was beginning to wake up. I didn't pick up the money. I stared at the notes on the floor until they blurred into a single insulting smudge of color. Something shifted inside me. A mechanical, cold snapping of a tether I hadn't realized was still holding me to them. The golden daughter died in that moment, and a stranger took her place. I felt a strange, icy calm wash over my limbs, replacing the frantic heat of my anger. I looked up at Oliver, but I wasn't looking at my brother anymore. I was looking at a debtor. I was looking at a project that had failed to yield a return. I stood up slowly, my posture straighter than it had been in years. I didn't brush the dust off my clothes. "You're right, Oliver," I said, my voice dropping to a controlled, melodic whisper that made him pause. "Business is business, and I have been very emotional. I think I'll take that room in the back for tonight. I'm quite tired from the flight." Cynthia smirked, thinking she had won. My mother let out a breath of relief, probably thinking she had successfully managed another crisis. They thought I was retreating. They thought the nursing assistant had finally accepted her lane. They didn't realize that 8 years of navigating the cold, bureaucratic systems of London had taught me more about fine print and patience than their governor's galas ever could. As I rolled my suitcase toward the back of the house, I wasn't thinking about a bed. I was thinking about the digital logins I still held for the investment fund accounts I had set up from London, and the fact that they hadn't changed the passwords yet. The maids' quarters were cramped and smelled of mothballs, but it was the perfect place to think. I opened my laptop, the screen light casting a ghostly glow on the peeling walls. I began to dig. I didn't just look at the bank balances. I looked at the digital footprints of Evelyn Heights and the family firm. What I found was far worse than a walk-in closet or a stolen wedding fund. Oliver hadn't just used my money as capital. He had used my identity as a guarantor. Because I had a high credit score in the UK and a clean record, he had forged my signature on several high-interest private loans to bridge the gap for the Lekki project. He hadn't just stolen my past, he had mortgaged my future. If the Evelyn Heights project failed, which, looking at the recent stop work orders from the building council on his desktop, it was about to, the creditors wouldn't go after Oliver. They would come after me. But there was a second, darker layer. As I combed through my mother's medical emails, which I still had access to because I had set up her iPad, I found a series of messages with a law firm. They weren't discussing her heart. They were discussing my father's will. My father hadn't died in debt. He had left a substantial life insurance policy and the deed to this very house specifically to me to ensure I would never have to struggle. My mother and Oliver had suppressed the will. They had told me we were penniless to trick me into going abroad and sending back foreign currency while they sat on a secret inheritance. They had effectively turned me into a human ATM for a decade, hiding the fact that I had been a wealthy woman the day my father breathed his last. I sat in the dark, the blue light of the laptop reflecting in my eyes, realizing that every struggling voice note was a calculated performance in a 10-year-long heist. The sun hadn't yet touched the Lagos horizon when I walked back into the main living room. Oliver was already up, dressed in a sharp linen suit, sipping espresso while Cynthia looked over a floor plan. My mother sat nearby, holding a tablet and nodding at their brilliance. They didn't even look up when I entered. They expected a broken woman coming to beg for more than 50,000 naira. "I need you all to sit down," I said. My voice wasn't a scream this time. It was the sound of a judge delivering a verdict. "Evelyn, we told you, we have the groundbreaking ceremony," Oliver began, waving a dismissive hand. I walked over to the obsidian dining table and laid my laptop down. I slid a folder of printed documents across the polished surface. The Evelyn Heights project has 3 stop work orders for structural integrity issues. You used my UK credit profile to guarantee a 40 million naira private loan from a firm that, from what I can see, has ties to people you don't want to owe money to. And most importantly, I paused, looking my mother directly in the eye. I have the original copy of Dad's will, the one you filed as missing at the probate registry. The espresso cup in Oliver's hand shook, the liquid slopping over the rim. My mother's face turned a shade of gray that matched the morning mist. "I spent last night talking to my contact at the bank in London," I continued, my voice cold and rhythmic. "Since the primary investment fund is still in my name, the one you used to funnel the Evelyn Heights capital, I've frozen the accounts. Every kobo you need to pay those creditors and the contractors for today's ceremony is currently locked by me." The silence was broken by a sharp, rhythmic knocking at the front gate. Oliver jumped, his eyes darting to the window. "Is that the contractors?" he whispered, his bravado evaporating like steam. "No," I said, leaning back against the gold leaf wall. "It's a man named Mr. Adeyemi. He's the lawyer who handled Dad's insurance policy 8 years ago. It turns out he's been trying to reach me for years, but strangely, the family representative told him I had passed away in a tragic accident in London." The color left Cynthia's face as the gate screeched open. She hadn't signed up for a legal war. She had signed up for a lifestyle. But it wasn't just the lawyer. Behind Mr. Adeyemi stood a man in a plain suit with a clipboard, a representative from the building council. "You see," I said, watching Oliver's hand start to sweat, "I didn't just freeze the money. I called the building council. I told them that as the primary guarantor and namesake of the project, I was concerned about the irregularities in the foundation. They aren't here for a groundbreaking ceremony, Oliver. They are here to condemn the site. Suddenly, my mother fell to her knees, her coral beads clattering against the floor. Evelyn, my daughter, we are your family. If you destroy the project, we all go down. Those private creditors, they aren't businessmen. They are dangerous men. They will come for us. No, I corrected her, feeling a strange sense of peace. They will come for the people who signed the fraudulent loan documents. And since I've already filed a report stating my signature was forged while I was out of the country, that leaves only two names on the hook, yours and Oliver's. The room felt like it was shrinking. Cynthia was the first to break. She grabbed her designer handbag and headed for the door, not even glancing at Oliver. I'm not going to prison for your family's mess, she hissed, leaving the matriarch and her son to face the storm alone. Oliver looked like a ghost of the man who had mocked me hours before. He tried to grab my hand, his voice cracking with a desperate newfound humility. Evelyn, please, we can fix this. We'll put your name on everything. You can be the CEO. Just unfreeze the funds so we can pay the creditors. If they don't get their money by noon, our lives aren't worth the dirt on your shoes. I pulled my hand away, feeling a profound sense of detachment. You want me to save you again? You want me to go back to being the engine that keeps your lies running? No, Oliver. For 8 years, I paid for your comfort with my youth. I'm not paying for your crimes with my freedom. My mother was wailing now, a loud, theatrical sound that finally held a grain of real fear. She begged me to remember the sacrifices she made raising me. But for the first time, I saw through the performance. I made my terms clear. They were to sign over the deed to the family house, the house my father intended for me, and they were to vacate the premises by sunset. I would provide the bank with a one-time release of funds to settle the private debt, but the Lekki land, the cars, and the Evelyn Heights brand were to be liquidated to pay back the estate. The transition wasn't easy. For weeks, the house felt haunted by the echoes of their betrayal. I watched from the window the day they left. Oliver, carrying his own suitcases for once, looked small and defeated. My mother didn't look back. She was already busy on her phone, likely looking for the next person to manipulate. I didn't feel the triumph I expected. I just felt light. I didn't sell the house. I stripped away the gold leaf molding and the obsidian floors. I sold the expensive, soulless art and the sub-zero fridge. I used the money to start a small, legitimate nursing consultancy, helping families navigate home care for the elderly, real care, not the fake surgeries my mother had invented. Months passed, and the Evelyn who lived in London started to fade. I stopped jumping when the phone rang. I stopped checking my bank balance every hour. I began to plant a real garden, not the one I had imagined in a cold Peckham flat, but one with vibrant hibiscus and sturdy palms that took root in the Nigerian soil. I reconnected with my father's old friends, the ones who hadn't been pushed away by my mother's greed, and I learned the truth about the man he was. He was a man of integrity, and in reclaiming my life, I was finally honoring him. Trust is a currency more valuable than gold, but it must be earned, even by those who share your blood. We often believe that sacrifice is the ultimate proof of love, but sacrifice without boundaries is merely an invitation for exploitation. My family didn't stop loving me because I went away. They stopped seeing me as a human being because I allowed myself to be a utility. In the psychology of betrayal, the hardest truth to swallow isn't that they lied, it's that you were willing to ignore the red flags, because the story of being a savior was too addictive to let go. True power shifts occur not when you get revenge, but when you realize you no longer need the validation of people who are committed to misunderstanding your worth. To love your family is a virtue, but to lose yourself in their greed is a tragedy. I sat on the porch as the sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the Lagos sky in bruises of purple and gold. The air was still humid, but the weight on my chest was gone. I took a sip of cold water, listening to the natural rhythm of the neighborhood, the distant laughter of children, and the honking of far-off cars. I looked at my hands. They were still calloused, but they were clean. The gate didn't screech anymore. I had oiled the hinges myself. For the first time in nearly a decade, I wasn't waiting for a thank you or a well done. I was just home. And as the first star appeared in the darkening sky, I knew that while they had stolen my years, they could never touch my future. I was finally the author of my own story. This story is storytelling by Divine Tales. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, share, and leave a comment for more powerful stories.